Alright, this is going to be a quick solution to the most recent Excel esports competition, which was called Census. I watched Dim's video. He used some fairly unique method to label rows and columns to figure out distances. I'm far too simple for that, so here's my kind of more simplified solution. It took me about an hour to get there on the day, but this is the method I did, so let's go through it. So first of all, this is my lambdas. So I actually made a lambda in the pre-work before the video, which was I just called Pythag. So I'll just pull that out and show you what it does. So it basically takes two cells. So let's take E1 and I don't know, F8. And what it's going to do, it's going to take a start cell and an end cell, and it's going to tell me the row difference between them, the column difference between them, and it's going to give me a distance in Pythagorean terms, which is going to be the square root of the row squared plus the column squared. And then I'm returning the distance. So I can take any two inputs and find out the straight line distance between them. So that was quite useful. Anyway, let's get into the case. So it's way easier doing these second time round. But there we go. Let's turn this into a table. Call it T. That's a trick I took from Dim. I basically copy a lot of his solutions and try and learn like that. Anyway, let's do this. Highest average household income. That's fairly easy. So, so that will be Oilborough here. Which state has the most cities? So again, this is, I originally did this on the day by doing like a unique of the states and then counting the cities in that state, but it is much quicker to use group by, so I need to get used to doing that. So let's do the state rows -2, so that will give me basically a pivot table. Which row has the highest population? So for this one, I just did XLOOKUP everything in here in the cities, and I returned the population. And then I need to get rid of the errors, so I'll put 0 for those, and that's essentially the population of all my cities. And then I want to by row sum that. Then I want to find the maximum of all of these, which is 145. So it's this one, which is row 2. I was a bit confused on the day. I was flip-flopping between putting row 2 or row 4. But I settled on 2 and it was right, luckily. Okay, what is the total population of all cities that are not in Excel state? So I was annoyed when I watched Tim's video on this because I basically tried to two-cold all of these, and then I tried to look for where they existed in here, where they didn't, and then pulled out the population. But it is back to basics really. You just take off Excel state here, and then you have the population here, which is a really big number. So subtotal formula will give you that quite nicely. Whoops, I've written substitute instead of subtotal. There we go, so let's copy that in. And then on the water one, I actually just tried to highlight the ones I could see were next to water. So I think it's all of those. Let's do a brighter colour there. That one's diagonal, but they only wanted things that are vertical and horizontally touching. And then I just manually copy pasted these, which was not the best, but it works. And then I want the average income per capita. I actually did that later after getting the income per capita, but we'll do it now. So let's call this capita. And let's actually relabel these for later to something more simple. Houses, okay. So the income per person is basically going to be the total income per household times the number of households. So that's the total income for the area divided by the number of people in the area. So then I have my cities that I'm interested in, so I'm going to XLOOKUP those in my cities, and I want the population because I want to weight it, and then I want the same thing but I want the income per person. So then to do a weighted average of that, I want to do this much income times by the number of people, so that's the total income in the area. I want to sum that up and I want to divide it by the total number of people in the area. And then the answer should be rounded, so it should be 56476. So 56476, and that's right. Okay, now let's actually get into the case. So how many households? So that's just a sum ifs. And I want the, what are we asking for? Households, houses, where the state, I'm not very good at working with tables yet, I need to practice it, is this. Then we want an index match of the table and X match the city to the table's city. And I want to match, whoops, the age, yep, the age to the table headers. So something's gone wrong there, but I don't know why. Oh, it's because this is a number and in the table is text. So I need to convert that to text. So, and that. So that's going to give me 59, but they want it in months, so I've got to times it up by 12, and I want to round it to the nearest number. So let's round it, and there we go. Okay, now we want the income per capita. I've already calculated that, so I just need to find it and round it. So we're going to XLOOKUP the city in our table. We're going to return this, but we need to round it, so let's round it. Next up, we want a 6-figure or a 4-figure city, so this is basically the same as dim solution. Let's get rid of this, so I'm going to call it fig, and that's if it's above 100,000 here or it's below 10,000 here. It's actually greater than or equal to 100,000 and less than 10,000. So then it's just another sum if here. So I want the sum of, I basically want to figure out how many people out of 100,000 are in those 6-figure cities of that state. So I want the number of people divided by the total people in the state times 100,000. So it's going to be the number of people where this sum of number of people where this is true and the state is this. So that's going to give me the number of people in the 6-figure city. Then I need to divide that by the total people in the state. Sorry, state, not city. So I want to get rid of this 6-figure bit. Here. So that's the proportion of people. So 23% of people, and then I want to times that up by 100,000 to get it in 100,000s. I again need to round, and that's right. So let's just go back to that. Okay, there we go. Okay, next up, this is where the pre-work came in handy. So I basically want to know the 2 cells that these things are in, and then convert it with this table. So to get the two cells, I have a flatten map lambda. So if I say flatten, I haven't pulled my lambdas in yet, so let me just do that. Okay, so equals flatten, and then this is going to give me everything in a defined area and the cell that they're in. Then I can just XLOOKUP these two things in my flattened map, and I can return the cell that they're in. And then to get the distance, I can just do my Pythag pre-work between those two cells, and it's going to give me the distance. That's just in cell length, so I want to times it by 1,000 because each cell is 1,000. Is it kilometers or meters in this? So there we go. And then I want to divide that by the conversion. And again, round it. The rounding is really tedious in cases like this. So that should be my answers. There we go. And this one took me a load of time in the actual case because I've never seen this like notation. It really like confused me trying to read through everything. It's talking about intersections of rows and so on. It's essentially just saying take start row, start column, end column, and tell me what's the population in that area. So for this one, I did a little data table. I really need a quicker way of doing these data tables. And then you can text split this on the two delimiters. So let's do the comma and the colon there. Okay, so start row is 2, end row is 6. And then I've never done this before, so it took me ages in the actual first day I did this. But you can just index the map like so, and give it a start row and column, and then you can colon and do the same thing to pull an area from a sheet, which took me a little while to figure out on the day, but now I know how to do it. I'll be much quicker. So that's going to give me the whole area. Then I can call it to flatten it. Then I can look up the population. Here, population is here. Let's put a 0 if it's nothing. And then what I want to know is how many items are here. So I can do count A of this, and there's 15 cells. So then I can do sum of this divided by 15. Again, we want to do this rounding, which is take some time, and that should be our answer. There we go. So actually, when you know how to do it, it's quite simple, but when you don't and you're panicking during the real case, yeah, it always takes me some time. So that should be my answers. And then the last question is just asking to find some information from a starting point and a radius. Again, on the day, I was well over time when I got to this bit, but these references just confused the hell out of me. Essentially, the way I thought about it was converting this row and column into a cell reference and finding everything 6 cells away with my Pythagoras formula. So let's do example 7. This goes out to H, and delete all this junk out. So what I did is text split this on the comma, and then I have a row and a column, but this is in the map which is offset by 2 rows and 2 columns. So to find the real cell reference of where we start, I need to add 2 to it, and that's the real row and column that I start from. So now I can say give me the address for that row and that column, and I'll give a relative reference. So I'm starting in S25. Next thing I want to do is pull in all of these and I want to know what the distance is from those. So I can use my Pythag thing again, and I can say I'm starting from here, lock it, and I'm ending here, and that's going to give me the distance. And then over here I can filter all my cities for where the distance to the cell they are in is less than or equal to our defined radius. So then I get out all the cities. Then it's just a case of looking up the population. And I also want to look up the life expectancy, because the question is basically to get an weighted average life expectancy for a given city. So life expectancy from birth, there we go. So to do a weighted average, you need to sum product your two arrays, and then you need to divide it by the total population. So that's going to be the sum of this array here. Again, we want to round it, and we want to convert it into months, because that's what the question's asking. So let's do both of those things. These brackets don't show up when I click tab for a formula, and that should be it. The last thing I want to do is add an if error and put it to 0, which again, these are little things that you don't find out till the day when you get an error and find out that a lot of these places don't have any cities around them. And that should be it. There we go. So I guess my method was somewhat simpler than Dim's video. I did use some pre-lambdas, only the Pythagoras one and the flatten map one, which I already had. So actually, let me just show you that. So let's go to my lambda sheet here, and if I go flatten map, giving away secrets now. Not that I win any of these cases, but still might be useful for some of you guys to have. So I've basically said, give me an array, and then let the cell addresses be, map the array, and give me the address of the row of each thing, the column of each thing, and the relative reference. So I'm going to actually show you what this looks like. So if I do round between 1 and 10, whoops. And then let's put our array in there. And I'm going to show you what each part does. So the first part is called cell addresses. Cell addresses. And all that does is it copies the array and gives the address of the cell that they're in. So this is actually useful by itself as a lambda. So I have it as a lambda as well. Just called address of cells. So then I can click any area, and it's just going to tell me what those cells are. So I take that, which is this part. I then ask what's in the cells, so I'm just flattening the range itself. And then I'm saying, stack the two things together, so the cell addresses and the what's in the cells. So that's called flatten in this formula, so I'll just show you what that looks like, if I can spell it right. So that's this. And then the last bit is basically filtering it in case there's any errors or blanks. So if I was to delete a portion of this out, then the final bit, which is called output, I think, it's going to not show these because there's nothing in there, so there's no point. Equally, if there's a bunch of errors, so let's just do a number in those, and then let's do equals 3 plus a letter. It's going to give me some errors. It also doesn't show those errors, so that last bit is just filtering for those. So that's it. I hope this was useful. It's my first video of a case walkthrough. I was thinking of doing all other cases this year on this channel, other than probably the simple case, because that one's too hard for me. But yeah, that's it. Subscribe if you like this stuff. I will put out more of them, and maybe some other Excel content if I can be bothered.